Hi, and welcome to the Adhesion Manager Spotlight for Inspire Investing. Today, we're going to take a look at ESG investing. Here with our contact at Inspire is Natalie Strayer. And Natalie, if you would, please take it away. Thank you so much.
Awesome. I appreciate you having me here today, and thank you for taking the time to walk through this with me. For those of you who don't know, I'm the external wholesaler over at Inspire. My contact information is in the top right-hand side, but it'll be throughout the presentation as well. Here's my little disclosure to make sure that we all don't get fired. Defining ESG, BRI, and socially responsible investing. We could also add to this sustainable investing. They all fall underneath the same umbrella, and I'm going to use them interchangeably throughout this presentation. I am the speaker for the day, so I have been an external for over 2 decades. No worries, I started when I was a toddler, so I'm still in my 20s. I think I have a great sense of humor, so if my jokes don't land, don't worry, it doesn't hurt my feelings. But I've represented almost every single product line that financial advisors or institutional managers could represent or sell. Everything from long-term care insurance, disability income, even spent a short period of my career in property and casualty. And I share that with you because I come from a different perspective of being able to connect what actually drives consumer behavior in all product lines that you could possibly present to clients. And today, one of the product lines that I'm going to discuss is creating a case for ESG factor investing. Now, there's several different types of terminology, and so I thought I would begin first with our philosophy on values-based money management. We believe that low-cost index-based portfolios constructed using biblically aligned ESG factors enhance an investor's outcome by offering quality tilt opportunities, systemized risk mitigation, and differentiated alpha. And this thus should be considered for all portfolios, including those that are not just faith-based. So let me say that again. What we do, and we believe we can provide higher quality organizations in the portfolios, mitigate some of the risk, and provide you with a differentiated alpha. And that's what I plan to show you today, is how exactly we do that. Now, when you think about faith-based, there's all kinds of different ways to slice up this pie. But for the most part, people have different convictions regardless of their faith on how they feel about some of the things that you see on the screen today. So abortion, pornography, gambling, alcohol, tobacco. In fact, many money managers and mutual fund providers actually pull some of these things out without making a large public statement about it. And really, human trafficking, what is it, 2020? And we're still talking about people who are profiting from human trafficking? But yes, organizations in the S&P 500 represent 2% of those dollars are actually profiting off of human trafficking. And what we see is in the up and coming generation, these convictions that people have are not wanting to profit from some of the things or all of the things that you see on your screen. And what we have done in our methodology is that we've taken it one step further. And we have said that it's not just about pulling out the bad, but it's about identifying the good. We've got enough bad stories going on around the world. We really want to put the emphasis around what is good in our marketplace. And so what we designed is our impact score. And our impact score is where we will rank organization where 100 would be a perfect company and 0, well, you're not really doing anything bad, but you're not doing anything good. Negative would be where you are doing something that would be in conflict with somebody who has a belief system. And taking that one step further about how we rank organizations is that we take the world of the stock market, we're going to assign negative points to companies that are contributing to or profiting from that first level of violation. So any human right violations, alcohol, tobacco, gambling, abortion, lesbian gay activism, and pornography. So I always like to make a point here that with our lesbian gay activism, we're not talking about discrimination. We're talking about the use of corporate profits to deploy an initiative. And when you give me a call, I'll go into more specifics exactly of what we found in the lesbian gay activism. But what we see here is that most of the things that are up here, there isn't really any good that comes off of profiting from something like alcohol. I mean, if you have a winery and people are coming, you really profit if they get addicted to your wine and they buy up the vineyard and they drink all their profits. That's how you really benefit. And so we assign negative points to things that these violations, and you can never earn any positive points to make up for where there would be negative points. But that's just not what we do in saying, here's all the bad stuff. Instead, what we do is we assign positive points in these 4 categories, somewhere around 37 subcategories underneath each of these categories. And in the 4 categories, we're looking for companies that are trying to make a difference in their workforce. So they're not discriminating against their human beings. They understand that human actually has a capital worth. Secondly, we look for companies that are watching their environmental footprint, using sustainable energy where necessary. The 3rd category where we assign positive points is in customers. Is it a product that people are proud to own, or do they pop off your logo as soon as they walk out the store? And then finally, within their communities and the local supply chains. And from those 4 categories, the positive points that you earn, we want to hire the highest scoring, most impactful, inspiring companies across the globe in which to invest. That's how we fill our portfolio. 99.9% a qualitative money manager, ranking companies with these qualitative factors and looking to put the most inspiring in our portfolios. Here's an example of, here's a product of what we do in our scoring. I don't know if you folks have Bright Horizons down by you in North Carolina, but we actually have them here in Columbus. And I used to work at JP Morgan, and JP Morgan has an on-site child care center. They actually gave me, I believe, when I was there, it was 45 days a year of free childcare, where I could literally bring my child on site with me, and Bright Horizons would watch them, and JP Morgan would pick up the tab. They try to create an environment where there isn't a disconnect between work life and home balance, and Bright Horizons is the facilitator of that. They score 88 on our impact score. So what I promised to show you today is not just an example of what we do, but actually creating a case for why this works in money management. And the first that I talked about was establishing quality. And when we first were coming into this marketplace and we were going to do this ESG fund, we wanted to make sure that we had enough resource to fuel what it is that we were standing on. And one of the research companies that we partnered with was State Street Capital, and this was the Project Delphi. And one of the things that they had contributed that there's a gap between market value and intrinsic value. And that ESG factors that we identify with are the significant contributor to or define risk for both the intangible performance and the earnings growth. So by assigning this scoring mechanism, we would be able to capture some of the intrinsic value performance that you experience when you own a security. And in their study, they go through and they say that a lot of the value of a company is in intangible assets. Back in the 70s, before I was born in the 70s, that's a joke. Before I was born, we were a manufacturing country. Our values were in the products that we created, and very little had to do with our intrinsic value. But then we would see, as we progress, we go into the 90s and we shift from being manufacturing over into services. And as we make that transition, we learned that intangible assets are actually driving the majority of the value of a company. For those of you who were born in the 90s, you might remember Yahoo, and it was a huge craze in the 90s where there were people were buying the stock, and the stock, there was no revenues, there was no earnings coming from Yahoo, but people were buying it like crazy. So intangible, being able to identify that intangible value and connecting it to qualitative measurements helps you to buy higher quality companies. In addition to that, as we saw in research from McKinsey & Company, in 2017, they said that institutional investors increasingly observe that risk related to ESG issues can have a measurable effect on a company's value. That things that are going on around them will have an impact on how that particular security is going to perform. Morgan Stanley went just a little bit further, and they said that when companies are ignoring these external factors, then they over-monetize their security, then creating an impact on investors' risk paying the price when such excess is created. I can give a few examples. We have the energy accounting scandal in the early 2000s, where the stock price went down by 99.6%. Telecommunications in 02, 98% decline. The big branch mine explosion, deep water, automobile, pharmaceutical. I mean, every industry has been affected where the people who picked up the brunt of that particular scandal, it was the stockholders. And it's not just scandals, it's also some of the ethical issues, such as tobacco. You may remember when Philip Morris lost 35% after there was a change in increased regulations. A retailer stock, you remember Target when they made their controversial position on not having male or female bathrooms. It went down 40% in a week, and it just recently recovered. And then, of course, we will all recognize these names down here: WorldCom, Enron, Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, AIG, and the list goes on and on. If you haven't seen the movie Fun with Dick and Jane, I highly recommend it. It's comical, but it's real. It's what actually happened and what people went through. And our point is that if you can identify the core tenet to the risk-return equation, which I just missed, you're identifying an organization at the point in which it's making qualitative decisions, which a byproduct will be a return. Morgan Stanley, they actually said in 2017 that underneath their sustainability of competitive advantage, that they believe that ESG factors are integral to assessing the quality of a company, and thus are a vital part of their investment process. It's not just something that they are speaking in philosophically, but they're actually applying it through their money managers. And is that in the non-ESG portfolio, or do they have an ESG portfolio? Because oftentimes as money managers, we separate the two. We have one portfolio that defines our traditional investment strategy, and one portfolio that defines whether or not we're going to be ESG. But on the other hand, when McKinsey completed that research that I referenced a moment ago, this underlying theme stood out, and that is sustainable investing is more effective when its core activities are integrated into existing process. So just as we have risk measurements within portfolios that determine how volatile a portfolio is going to be, how it's going to behave, McKinsey & Company's outcome of their research indicated that you should consider ESG as a core part of your investment philosophy. But it's not just separate, but it is now a component of all portfolios. Morgan Stanley continued their research in this sustainable investing that they did in 2017, and they actually asked their clients, and they broke it down by millennials, women, men, and the financial advisors. And what they asked was, if you had the option to invest where values were first, so doing sustainable investing, ESG investing, would you prefer to do traditional investing or do ESG? And off the charts, millennials said 86% of them, absolutely, I want to do ESG investing. Not surprisingly, quickly behind them, 84% of women said, I want to do ESG investing. Now, I understand there's probably gentlemen in the room and gentlemen that will be listening to me, but I'm shocked at this number here that 67% of men said that they would prefer to do ESG investing over traditional. But then when the same advisors of these clients were asked, are your clients interested in doing sustainable investing? And they all said no. I shouldn't say all. Majority said no. 62% said no. My clients are not interested in doing ESG investing. Now, I will defend my industry and my financial advisors because, you know, this is the only career I've had in my life since I've been 2. And we were told when we got our securities license that we are never to talk about religion or politics. And ESG is always going to bring up religion and politics. But there's a way to have the conversation where you are not talking about your religion or your politics. And you can guide the client through a conversation that will allow them to be able to determine whether or not they really want to have a portfolio that is in alignment with their belief structure. This principle of responsible investing has exponentially gone up year over year. As clients are becoming more aware of these types of investment strategies, they're making the demand with their mouth and their wallet in saying, I want to connect my own personal values with investment objectives. So I promised that I was going to show you a differentiated alpha. Because although we see this increase in money going from just a little bit of assets under management, what we are finding is, though, that it's approaching $2 trillion in assets under management. And most clients, as they're making this transition, they think that they have to give up returns. So there's these men and women that are millennials, they're older, and they're saying, I want to invest with values. And they walk into that conversation thinking that they're going to be forfeiting returns. And when you look at our holdings versus the S&P 500, they're different. When I traditionally would go in and try to compete with other asset managers for space, we oftentimes, if we had the S&P 500, we would just be competing and picking what our top 10 holdings were, but it was just a reallocation of the same 10 companies. But in our portfolios and portfolios like us, you will see that there is a differentiated alpha. Our top 10 holdings will not be the same. And as a financial advisor that is looking to acquire clients and attract them through differentiation, that's exactly what us and companies like us are going to be able to produce. My sector weightings are going to be different, not because we have certain types of convictions, but it's a byproduct of us doing our selection process, in that it's all where we rank the companies. And in my Inspire 100, I'm literally pulling the top 100 scoring companies and I'm filling my portfolio. So it produces a differentiation in my lineup and my sector weights and in my performance. Good values and good returns are not mutually exclusive. Clients do not have to forfeit potential returns because they are connecting their values with outcomes. Now, who are we? I'm referring to Inspire Investing. We were founded in 2015. We receive quite a bit of free accolades where we are referenced in ETF.com. The Huffington Post has actually even written a few things about us. They call us the Chick-fil-A of investing, which I literally cannot wait to be like Chick-fil-A, where there's 400 voicemails that I got to return in the morning. We have 500 million in assets under management. So that's just within a few years, we're able to raise that much money. We offer our products, which are available through Adhesion through SMAs. And here are the people who are making the decisions. So Robert Nestle is our founder and CEO. Asset managers come with a tremendous amount of experience. And because we are a more condensed organization, you have access to these folks. So if you'd like to get into the weeds and the analytics, it's easy to access these folks and ask those questions. There's where Huffington Post called me the Chick-fil-A of investing. But the final thing that makes Inspire so unique than any other money manager is that we take 50% of our corporate profits and we donate it to various organizations that do these great things like drill clean water wells. This is a water well in Nepal, India, where they had no clean water, and now 28 people in this village have a clean water source. So we're not only looking to find the most inspiring companies, we want to be an inspiring company. We want to transform the globe. Now, you'll have access to our SMAs through Adhesion. And there's one final thing that I want to toggle over and share. So this is the Morgan Stanley research that I referenced a moment ago, where 86% of millennials would prefer to do values-based investing, 84% of women, 67% of men. And the study continues to say that even though they have these convictions, only about 40% of women continue to actually apply these values in their investments, and only 36% of men. Now, of course, I haven't completed my dissertation on this, but if you would like my opinion about why I feel that is, that even though people want to invest this way and they don't do it, it's because of two things. The first of which is this myth that you would forfeit your performance in your portfolio. And then the second thing is that I would say access. If I go to my financial advisor and I tell him that I want to do sustainable investing, I want to do values-based money management, he's going to look at me, he's going to make maybe 2 or 3 phone calls. If this is not his bread and butter and what he does on a regular basis, he's just going to tell me that there's no way for it to be done. And that's what is amazing about Adhesion, is that you don't have to tiptoe around the situation. You can literally make one phone call to me. We can connect those clients' values with outcomes. So you have access to these portfolios where many financial advisors do not. Now, I've gone into a lot of information today. I hope I've paced it well enough to stay on time, as well as give you enough content to be able to share with you how to reach me. Align your client's investment outcomes with objectives. I can connect them together. I can perform at or above my market secular alternative. And I'm a company that is going to continue to do the mission of transforming the world. And that's what I have for you today. I appreciate your time.
Fantastic, Natalie. Thanks so much. That was great. We did have a questions coming up. Largely, it seemed like not many questions surrounding how you guys do what you do. We're pretty well sold on that. Mostly, we want to know, so when it comes to collateral and maybe additional reading materials, especially in regards to some of those studies you mentioned, what do you guys have available, or where can we access those?
These are the actual studies themselves. So I anticipated that question, even though you didn't prepare me for it. And these are the actual studies themselves that I can upload. I can email this over and have it alongside of the other piece. I did kind of drop a little hint that opening up the conversation with your client about doing values-based money management does not have to be an expression of your own values. And we have a booklet that makes it very easy for you to literally show it to them and say, is this important to you? Do you want to do this? And that way you avoid having to have an uncomfortable situation where you may not be comfortable talking about religious or socioeconomic concerns.
Fantastic. That's great. And yeah, we'll definitely take a look at that, and we'll include this information alongside for the spotlight, so you should be able to view it right easily in the screen that you're viewing this this webinar. So thanks very much for that. And Natalie, that's all we have on our end. I really appreciate your time today. This is straightforward, super thoughtful, very, very helpful, and we're really excited to partner with Inspire. So thank you so much for your time today.
I appreciate you. Thank you.